If I had one piece of advice that I'd want to share with you or anybody in this world, it would be this. No matter what, when you're creating change, do not look externally in your reality for signs that that change is happening. Because what happens is whenever we create change and we get these inner feelings or like the claircognizant feeling of like that gut feeling of like, I need to do this. I think a lot of times people start the process and they stop too soon because the outer reality isn't reflecting it. And a good way to say this is like building a brand, for instance. Like whenever I started building Weekender Collective, there were all these moments where I like felt like I was doing nothing, wasn't even making any progress. But what I was doing was creating the foundation for the brand, right? And you don't get that instant gratification. And at moments where instant gratification isn't showing up, a lot of people quit. And what they do is actually, there's like a really cool image. I'll try to piece it in this video, but there's like a wall and somebody's mining and they're this close to the gold, but they stop. And that is essentially what's happening is a lot of times people, I think, and myself, I used to have this tendency, and maybe you do too, it's like we'd start on this journey, we get this strong gut feeling and we'd be like, man, I'm gonna do this. And then next thing you know, reality is showing us every sign to quit. And then we're like, well, maybe it's not for me. Or maybe, yeah, I guess that was just like one of those feelings. And then say like 3 months, 6 months, 2 years later, you're like, dang, I wish I would have followed that hunch because that market took off, or, that product or whatever it was, There were several times actually, for instance, like in entrepreneurship that this occurred. Like when CBD came out, I was like, oh no, this is going to be big and it's going to hit. And then it did, and it took off. And I was like, man, I wish I would have followed that market. Same thing with Bitcoin. When Bitcoin was brand new, I remember talking to my cousin who was an accountant, and she's like, I don't trust it. I'm like, I just have a feeling like it's going to take off. And then look at it now. And then we're at family dinners and I'm like, so you're the accountant and I'm the entrepreneur. But, just like instances like that. And then, most specifically lately, I had this feeling this last year to really just double down into adventure travel stuff. Not only because I went to Guatemala and it opened me up and I was just like, this is it. Like, this is what I want to do with my life. I love adventure. I love traveling. I love filming. I love experienced cultures. Like, you get the gist, right? And then anytime I had a chance this year, I was spending my money traveling and adventuring and doing whatever I could and just aimlessly following my gut, following my inspiration, following what I love. And though every sign, talking about like finances, like money, the money was, I was just like, man, I feel like I'm burning a hole in my pocket, but it felt right? And then even my dad being like, oh, you took too many trips this year, son. And I'm like, no, I didn't. And like most of them were paid for, but no matter what, my time and my energy went into filming and all this travel stuff. And then most recently, a couple days ago or last week, the dream company, Beautiful Destinations, dropped a collab with Travel Dubai. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. And here's the coolest part of this story, and this is what I really want to recirculate to you guys, is like I had all the pieces I needed for a perfect portfolio. Not only that, stuff that I did on the 75-day YouTube challenge really anchored into what they're looking for in a creative. Like all this stuff that I've been aimlessly, blindlessly doing this last year, just following my gut, trusting myself, driving home what was right for me and made no sense in the reality around me, just paid off huge for me. And this application process and stuff. And I'm not saying that I want it. I wish to be one of the 4 selected, and I'm hoping, my highest hopes are that I am. But it's cool to see these instances in life, and this is what I really want to portray to you, where you just go off on a whim, you have nothing but a gut feeling, and you're just following it so blindly, and you're not attaching it to any outcome. You're essentially just following yourself, you're connecting with yourself, and you're doing what you love. And then later in life, the circumstances come together to create the perfect scenario for you. And I think that is the one piece of advice I'd share with anybody is no matter what your reality is showing around you, the biggest thing I've learned thus far in 34 years on this planet is to trust your gut, follow that gut feeling so blindly that absolutely nothing makes sense. And the more that you lean into it, the more it's going to benefit you, until that day that everything shows up around you and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so meant to be. This is so planned. I'm glad I followed that gut feeling, because I think that is the best connecting feature to the feelings. And when you can really like anchor in those aspects of following your gut, doing what you love, there needs to be nothing around you to validate what you're doing, just continually doing it until it pays off, and not worrying about when it'll pay off, just knowing and trusting and believing that it will pay off, because one day it will pay off. But the biggest gift here is just following that gut and giving absolutely no reason to defer from what it's telling you and trusting it. I think that's it for today, y'all. Peace out and have a good day.